if she can. She was a royal princess of a town, but her mother had a frown. One day she slept, and in the palace dread, for her name was Snow White. She was really happy and bright. But what happened next? Did she play or rest? So let's watch the English play and see what you have to say.
When I had been a toddler, I often asked myself, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of all? Mirror, mirror on the wall, will I be short or tall? Though my mirror never replied, yet it gave me a glimpse of my short height. My friends call me a dwarf, though I grew tall over the years, but I could never get over the dwarf. I really wanted to see them. So today, my dear friends, I got to see the dwarf, not one, but 7. Our next event is performed by the students in the age group of 6 to 7 years. So dear ladies and gentlemen, may I now present before you all the English play Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Once upon a time there was a beautiful little girl who lived in a great castle. She was the king's daughter, and she was very pretty. She had black hair, clear white skin, and red lips. Everyone called her Snow White. Snow White had no mother, for she died when Snow White was just a little baby. But the king married again. The new queen was also very beautiful, but had an evil heart. The queen was very proud of her beauty. She had a magic mirror in her bedroom that told nothing but the truth. And every day she went to the mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the prettiest lady in the land?" And the mirror would answer, "You are my queen." The queen was very happy that she was the most beautiful lady in the land. Several years went by, and Snow White became an even more beautiful lady. One day, when the queen asked her magic mirror the same question, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the prettiest lady in the land?" the mirror answered, "Snow White is the prettiest lady in the land." The queen got very upset and angry. She was no longer the prettiest. She could not stand it. She thought about it all day. She could not eat or sleep. How could she, the queen, become the prettiest lady in the land again? "Snow White must die," she thought. And so she called a hunter and told him to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. "Bring me her heart in this box, and I shall give you a rich reward," said the evil queen, giving the hunter a small wooden box. The hunter took Snow White deep into the forest. And when they reached the darkest part of the forest, he took out his bow and arrow. He aimed them at poor Snow White. Snow White got on her knees and begged the hunter to let her live.
Oh, please, sir, I have done nothing wrong. Please let me live. If you let me go, I will never go to the castle again. The queen will never see me again,
said Snow White, crying. The hunter looked at Snow White and put down his bow and arrow. He could not kill a lady who was so beautiful and kind. He bowed his head to Snow White and said, "Princess, I cannot kill you. Please run away as far as you can. I will deal with the queen." Snow White thanked him and ran deeper into the forest. In the meantime, the hunter killed a deer and put the deer's heart into the box the queen had given him. When the queen saw the heart inside the box, she laughed. "Now I am the prettiest lady in the land," she said. Snow White walked a long time in the forest. It was getting very dark, and she was afraid. She had never been alone at night inside a forest before, but she dared not go back to the castle. When she went on a little further, she saw a small cottage. Everything about the cottage was small. The door and windows were small, and the cottage was not even very tall. She carefully went inside.
This cottage must belong to dwarves,
thought Snow White as she looked around. There was a long table in the middle of a large room with 7 small plates and cups. Each plate had some food. 7 little chairs were placed around the table.
I am so hungry. I wonder if I could eat some of this food,
said Snow White. And so Snow White went around and ate a little off each plate. After she felt full, she went to another room that was the bedroom. In it were 7 small beds.
I'm so tired,
said Snow White, yawning.
Perhaps I could just lie down on the beds for a little while.
Snow White picked one that looked comfortable and lay down. She fell asleep right away. The 7 dwarfs worked hard inside a mountain. They mined for gold deep inside the mountain. And when they came home each evening, they sang as they marched all in a row. But when the 7 dwarfs returned home this night, there was a surprise for them.
Someone has eaten our food,
one of them said.
And look, there's someone sleeping on our beds,
cried another as they saw Snow White.
She's so beautiful. I've never seen anyone so pretty before,
said one of the dwarfs. Just then Snow White woke up and was scared to see all the dwarfs looking at her. But she soon found out that they were very kind.
Who are you and why are you here?
asked the dwarfs. Snow White told them her story. The dwarfs were shocked and felt very bad for her.
You must live here with us,
they said.
We will take good care of you and keep you safe. But you must be careful. The queen will find out that you are still alive. You must never let anyone inside the cottage.
And so Snow White came to live with the 7 kind dwarfs deep in the forest. She cleaned their cottage and cooked their dinner. They were all very happy with one another. But one day the queen looked in her magic mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, Who is the prettiest lady in the land? She was shocked when the mirror answered, The prettiest is still Snow White, who lives with 7 little dwarfs in the forest. The hunter did not kill Snow White, said the queen angrily. She must die, but if Snow White is to be killed, I must do it myself, said the evil queen. The queen thought of a plan. She painted a bright red apple with poison and put it in a basket with other apples. She dressed herself as an old woman and set out to find the dwarf's cottage in the forest. She found it at last, and she knocked on the door. It was late morning, and the dwarfs had already left for the mountains. Snow White was alone in the cottage. Thinking about what the dwarf said, Snow White did not open the door to the queen. Instead, she said from behind the door,
Who is it? Just an old woman wanting to sell you some delicious apples. Won't you open the door and let me in? I will show you the apples,
said the queen.
I'm sorry, but I can't let anyone in,
said Snow White.
We don't need any apples, thank you. You are being smart not to let anyone in, my dear. It is good to be careful. I will go now, but for being so good, let me just give you 1 apple as a gift,
said the evil queen. Snow White opened the door just a little and took the poisoned apple from the queen. It looked so good. Snow White bit into the apple. The poison worked quickly, and Snow White fell to the ground as if dead. The queen saw Snow White fall and left. But on her way back to the castle, the evil queen tripped and fell into a river. She could not swim, so she drowned. When the dwarfs returned that night, they found Snow White on the floor with the poisoned apple in her hand. They tried to wake her, but they could not. They cried and cried. The dwarfs made a casket out of glass for Snow White because even in death she looked so beautiful. They brought the casket outside in the forest. Every day they came to lay flowers around the glass casket and cried for poor Snow White. One day, a prince came on horseback into the forest and saw the glass casket. He saw Snow White lying in it and was amazed at how beautiful she was. When the dwarfs came to visit, the prince was told of her story, and he too was sad. The prince was so taken by her beauty that he opened the casket and kissed Snow White. And a miracle happened. A piece of poisoned apple came out of Snow White's throat, and she started to breathe again. The prince took Snow White to his kingdom, where he married her. They lived happily ever after.